she pressed the hot iron against her cheek. The pain was instant, a searing burn that made her scream out in agony. She cried out, the pain almost unbearable as the iron stayed pressed against her skin for what felt like an eternity. Her face burned, the skin sizzling beneath the heat. "You'll learn not to mess with me," Duro shouted, his eyes full of cruelty. "You are nothing, Amina, nothing." The night was heavy with sorrow. The flickering candlelight in the small room barely illuminated Amina's tear-streaked face. At just 18 years old, she should have been dreaming of a bright future, a career, love, freedom. But instead, she was being prepared for a wedding she never wanted. Her mother, Madame Sade, sat beside her, adjusting the heavy gold necklace around her trembling neck. "Stop crying, Amina. Do you know how lucky you are? Women dream of marrying a wealthy man like Chief Duro. He will take care of you," her mother scolded, her voice sharp. But Amina knew the truth. Chief Duro was not a man. He was a monster in human form. At 52 years old, he was known for his ruthlessness, cruelty, and hunger for young brides. 3 wives had already disappeared from his mansion under mysterious circumstances. Some whispered that he had killed them. Others said he had locked them away, never to be seen again. But none of that mattered to Amina's parents. All they saw was his money. Her father had accepted a briefcase full of cash and a promise that Chief Duro would pay off all their debts. In their eyes, Amina was just a price to be paid for their financial freedom. As the wedding drums played outside, she clutched her dress, shaking. "Mama, please, don't do this to me," she whispered. But her mother's face remained cold. "Your husband is waiting." The ceremony was grand, yet Amina felt like a lamb being led to slaughter. Duro's thick fingers clutched her wrist as he whispered in her ear, "From today you are mine. I own you." His breath smelled of strong alcohol and raw power. He smiled for the cameras, but behind that smile was something dark, something evil. By the time they arrived at his mansion, her fate was sealed. The mansion was cold, massive, and lifeless. No laughter, no warmth, only servants who avoided eye contact and guards who carried guns. That night, as she sat on the bed in her new room, the door creaked open. Chief Duro stood there, his eyes hungry, predatory. "Welcome to my world, Amina," he said. And with that, her true nightmare began. Amina sat at the edge of the massive bed, her hands trembling as she pulled her knees to her chest. The air in the room was thick with the scent of fear. Every wall in Chief Duro's mansion seemed to whisper warnings of the women who came before her, of the ones who never made it out. Her wedding dress, still draped over the chair, felt like a prison uniform. She wanted to scream, to run, but the guards outside the door stood like lifeless statues, their guns glinting under the dim chandelier light. She had been sold. Like cattle at a market, the door creaked open. Chief Duro stepped inside. His large frame blocked out the light, casting a terrifying shadow over her. His dark eyes held no warmth, only possession. He took a slow step forward, the sound of his polished shoes echoing in the silence. "Why do you look so afraid?" His voice was deep, controlled. Amina opened her mouth, but no words came out. "You are my wife now. That means your body, your soul, they belong to me." She swallowed hard. This was it. This was the moment her life would change forever. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of him, not in front of this man who had bought her like an object. He reached out and grabbed her wrist. His grip was brutal, unyielding. "Stand up." She obeyed, her legs weak beneath her. "Good girl. Now, a wife should always obey her husband. You will do whatever I say whenever I say it, and if you ever think of running, let me show you something." He dragged her across the room, throwing open a hidden door. Amina's blood turned to ice. Inside, a small dark room. The walls were lined with chains, shackles, and torn fabric stained with dried blood. The last one thought she could leave me. She was wrong. Mana's breath hitched. Was this where the missing wives ended up? Was this where she would end up too? Duro leaned in, his breath hot against her ear. You are mine, Amina, and if you ever disobey me, this will be your home. Her vision blurred with tears. This was not a marriage. This was a nightmare that would never end.
And for the first time in her life, she wished she was dead.
The days bled into each other, and with every passing moment, Amina's heart broke a little more. The pain had become so constant, she could no longer tell the difference between exhaustion and despair. Every day felt like a never-ending cycle of servitude, humiliation, and fear. Chief Duro's cruelty knew no limits. He would demand things from her that stripped her of dignity, things that left her feeling smaller, like a shadow, a being not meant to exist in the light. Each night she would lay on the cold floor, her body too tired to move, her spirit too crushed to even dream. The luxurious bed was not hers to sleep in. It was his domain. A domain she was forced to serve, but never allowed to enjoy. When he wanted her, he would pull her from the floor and drag her to the bed, ignoring her silent pleas. His grip was cold, unfeeling. He didn't care for her comfort or her consent. She was just another thing for him to use. When he was done, the cold, callous slap of his hands against her body would remind her that she was nothing more than a tool. The bed became a place of torment, not comfort. The sheets were stained with her pain, and each time he discarded her, he would kick her to the floor, as if to remind her of her worth. Nothing. That night, the pain of the day overwhelmed her. Amina's sobs were loud, raw, and broken. She cried for the girl she used to be. She cried for the life she never got to live, for the love she never felt. Her cries echoed through the room, but Chief Duro was unbothered. "Shut up," he barked, his voice full of rage. He grabbed a cloth and tied it tightly over her mouth, suffocating her voice, trapping her in a cage of silence. Amina's sobs continued, muffled, her heart aching with every breath. She wanted to scream, to beg, but the words caught in her throat, and her spirit broke just a little more. But the torment didn't stop. Every night was worse than the last. His demands grew darker, his torments more painful. Whenever he felt the urge, he would drag her to the bed, making her feel smaller, less human. He would call her worthless, his words cutting deeper than any whip. His eyes would gleam with sadistic pleasure as he continued. He didn't see her as a woman or a wife. He saw her as something to be used, a toy for his twisted pleasures. Amina lay there, trapped in a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Every inch of her body was bruised, but it wasn't just the physical pain that shattered her. It was the constant humiliation, the knowing that she was nothing more than a prisoner in his mansion, locked away from the world. Her heart longed for escape, for freedom, but she couldn't find the strength. Every attempt at resistance only led to more pain, more torment. "You will learn to love this, Amina," he would say, his voice low and cruel. "You are mine." As the days turned into weeks, Amina felt herself fading. The girl who had once dreamed of a different life, of a family, of love, of freedom, was slipping away. She was becoming just another ghost, a shadow of what she once was. But in the silence of the night, when the torment was over, Amina closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I will survive." Amina was about 3 months pregnant, but every day felt like a new form of torture. Her body, now carrying a child, was being slowly destroyed by Duro's cruelty. She spent every night on the cold floor, her body aching from exhaustion and the constant abuse. That night, after another brutal round of torment, Amina lay there, barely able to move. The pain in her stomach was sharp, something she had never felt before. It felt like her insides were being ripped apart. Her breathing became shallow as she clutched her belly. The pain grew more unbearable. Blood started to seep between her legs, and her heart raced in panic. She tried to get up, but her body refused to obey. "Please, no," she whispered to herself, her tears mixing with the blood on the floor. But it was too late. The life inside her was slipping away. The blood pooled around her and she screamed, but it was a muffled, weak cry. No one was there to hear. The pain was so intense her body couldn't handle it. She fell unconscious on the cold floor, the pool of blood surrounding her as her body trembled uncontrollably. When Amina woke, she was in a hospital room. Her body felt cold and empty. A surgeon stood nearby, her face full of concern. But Amina barely registered her words. "You've lost the baby," the surgeon said softly. "You were lucky to survive." Amina stared blankly at the ceiling, her mind reeling. The loss of the baby felt like the loss of everything she had ever hoped for. The pain was physical, yes, but the emotional pain was deeper. A wound that would never heal. A few days later, Amina was back in the mansion, the heavy weight of her loss hanging over her. Her body was still recovering, but Duro showed no concern. He was there, waiting, as if nothing had happened. He didn't even look at her, as if she was nothing but a tool to be used. "You really thought you could keep it, didn't you?" he sneered. "You're worthless. No baby can change that." He approached her slowly, a wicked grin on his face. Without a word, he slapped her across the face, sending her stumbling back. "You'll never be anything but mine," he growled, his voice filled with malice, "and I'll remind you of that every day." Amina lay on the floor, broken and bruised, her body still aching from the miscarriage. Her heart felt heavier than ever, but she had no strength left to fight. She was a prisoner, trapped in a nightmare that seemed to have no end. Amina's body still ached from the miscarriage, but the torment didn't stop. Her days were filled with endless work. She ironed his clothes, cooked his meals, cleaned the mansion, never a moment to rest. That day, her hands trembled as she ironed one of his expensive shirts. Sweat trickled down her face, her exhaustion overwhelming her, but she couldn't stop. She couldn't afford to. As she pressed the hot iron onto the fabric, her mind wandered for just a second. A moment of weakness. The clothes began to wrinkle, and in a panicked rush to fix it, Amina accidentally left the iron on one of the sleeves for too long. The fabric scorched. She gasped. The expensive shirt was ruined. "No, no, no," she whispered to herself, heart pounding in fear. Suddenly, Duro appeared in the doorway, his eyes scanning the room, his gaze fixed on the burnt shirt and his expression turned to pure rage. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, his voice booming. Amina froze, her blood running cold. "My expensive clothes," he spat, his hands balled into fists. "Do you think I'm made of money?" Amina's body trembled as she backed away, terrified. She opened her mouth, trying to apologize, but her voice failed her. Before she could say a word, Duro rushed toward her. "You think you can mess up my things and get away with it?" He grabbed her by the arm, his grip like iron. He dragged her toward the ironing board. "You're gonna learn a lesson today." Amina's heart raced as he grabbed the hot iron from the board. Her eyes widened in fear. She tried to pull away, but his grip was too strong. "Please, no," she begged, tears welling up in her eyes. But he didn't listen. With brutal force, he pressed the hot iron against her cheek. The pain was instant, a searing burn that made her scream out in agony. She cried out, the pain almost unbearable as the iron stayed pressed against her skin for what felt like an eternity. Her face burned, the skin sizzling beneath the heat. "You'll learn not to mess with me," Duro shouted, his eyes full of cruelty. "You are nothing, Amina. Nothing." Amina collapsed to the floor, her body shaking uncontrollably. Her cheek was raw, the skin blistered and marked by the iron. The tears flowed freely now, mixing with the sweat and blood from the torment. She tried to speak, but all she could do was sob. "I didn't mean to. I'm sorry," she whispered through her tears, but Duro was already turning his back. He didn't care. "You should be. Now get up and finish the damn clothes," he sneered, leaving her on the floor. Amina sat there, broken. Her face, once beautiful, now marred by the burn mark. Her body ached, her spirit was crushed. But she got up, wiping her tears, and forced herself to continue, because there was no other choice. This was her life now. Ania found out she was pregnant again. She thought Duro might show some form of happiness, that he would treat her better, but instead he was angry. "Another one?" he sneered. "You think this will change anything?" He forced her to cook a complicated meal, pushing her to the brink of exhaustion. She spent hours preparing it, hoping to at least please him. But when she placed the food in front of him, he didn't even look at it before angrily flinging it aside. "This food smells terrible. You were trying to poison me, huh?" he yelled. "Clean it up." Amina's heart sank, but she had no choice. She cleaned it up, feeling her energy drain with every movement, and prepared another meal. This time, when it was ready, Duro ordered her to bend over as he stood beside her, cruelly placing the hot food on her back. The pain was immediate. The heat of the food seared her skin and she screamed in agony. "Keep quiet," he ordered as he ate with no care for her pain. His laughter echoed through the room, mocking her suffering. That night, after hours of torment, he dragged her to the bed. She barely had the strength to plead. "Please, Duro, not tonight. I'm tired," she whispered, but her words only made him angrier. He slapped her hard across the face, a sharp, dirty slap that made her head spin. "Shut up," he barked, throwing her to the bed with force. He pinned her down, and his laughter filled the room as he took what he wanted. Amina cried, tears streaming down her face, but he didn't care. The music blared loudly, drowning out her sobs. Hours later, he finally released her, throwing her back onto the cold floor. Amina's body was exhausted, her spirit broken. She fainted, unable to endure any longer. As Duro snored beside her, Amina woke up in a pool of her own blood. "Oh no, not again," she whispered, the weight of her loss crashing down on her. She had another miscarriage. Anya woke up again in a hospital bed, her body weak and covered in bandages. The cold, sterile room felt like a prison, but at least she wasn't lying on the floor. Her blood loss had been severe, but Duro had acted quickly, taking her to the hospital. He didn't want her to die, not because he cared, but because if she did, it would bring trouble for him. As she lay there, still struggling to open her eyes fully, a nurse entered quietly, adjusting her uniform. The nurse had been attending to Amina for days, noticing the marks on her skin, the bruises, the cuts. The nurse had seen it all, the fear in Amina's eyes, the way she flinched whenever someone got too close. The nurse's heart ached for her. She walked closer to Amina's bed, carefully checking her vitals. Her eyes lingered on Amina's body, noting the signs of torment that weren't from any accident. The marks were too consistent, too purposeful. The nurse knew that something wasn't right. The way the guards stood outside, constantly watching the door, only reinforced her suspicions. Amina was being kept here, locked away from the world. She leaned closer to the bed, speaking softly. "Amina, are you okay?" Amina blinked slowly, still foggy, trying to focus on the nurse's face. She nodded weakly, her voice barely a whisper. I'm fine." But the nurse could tell. She could see the fear in Amina's eyes and the way she shrunk into the bed as if trying to disappear. "Anina, I've been treating you for days now. I need to know, who did this to you?" The nurse's voice trembled slightly, the concern growing in her tone. Amina's eyes darted toward the door. The guards were still standing there, still watching, but the nurse's gentle voice gave her a sense of privacy. "It's him," Amina's voice cracked, tears welling up in her eyes. He does this to me every day. I'm nothing to him." The nurse's hand shook slightly as she moved closer. Who does this? Amina, you have to tell me." Amina couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came, soft at first, then harder, like a dam finally breaking. She couldn't stop them. "He's my husband, Chief Duro," Amina sobbed, unable to look at the nurse. He treats me like I'm nothing, like I'm just his possession." The nurse's heart broke as she saw the depth of Amina's suffering. She had known abuse, but seeing it so raw, so damaging, filled her with rage and pity. "Amina, you're not nothing," the nurse said, her voice thick with emotion. "You are a human being and no one has the right to treat you this way." Amina sobbed harder, her body trembling. "I want to escape, but I can't. He won't let me," she choked on her tears. "I'm trapped. I don't know what to do." The nurse reached out, gently taking Amina's hand. She could feel the coldness of her skin, the exhaustion in every muscle, the pain in her eyes. But she couldn't stop. She had to speak. She had to give Amina hope, even if it was just a small glimmer. "I won't let him hurt you anymore," the nurse whispered, her voice firm now. "I will help you. I will find a way. You just need to trust me." Amina's heart wrenched as she looked at the nurse, her vision blurry from the tears. She could feel the weight of everything crushing her, but the nurse's words, though small, gave her a flicker of hope. "But how? How can you help me?" "He's everywhere. He won't let me leave. And the guards, they're always watching." The nurse lowered her voice even more, making sure no one could hear. "I'm not going to make promises I can't keep, but you're not alone. I see you. I know what's happening, and I'll do everything I can to get you out of here." Emily looked into the nurse's eyes, still uncertain, but for the first time she felt like someone cared. Her tears continued to fall, but this time it wasn't just from pain. It was from the relief of finally being heard. "Thank you," Amina whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. "Please, just help me." The nurse nodded. "I will, Amina, I promise you." The door creaked open. Amina turned her head weakly, her heart pounding as the nurse slipped inside, shutting the door behind her. Her face was tense, her eyes darting around as if she feared being watched. Amina sat up slightly, her body still aching. "Did you find a way?" she whispered, her voice fragile, desperate. The nurse hesitated. That pause alone sent a wave of panic through Amina. "I asked around," the nurse began, voice low. "Chief Duro. He's too powerful. His connections run deep. People fear him. No one will dare go against him." Amina's breath caught. Her chest tightened. "No, please don't say that," she pleaded, her hands trembling. The nurse swallowed hard. "Amina, this escape is almost impossible. Even if you leave this hospital, he'll find you. He always does." Amina's world shattered. She had clung to the thought of escaping, but now the walls were closing in again. Tears welled up, spilling down her bruised cheeks. Her voice shook. "Then what do I do? Just stay and let him kill me?" The nurse grabbed her hand tightly. "No, listen to me. We will find a way. I don't know how yet, but I swear to you, we will. I won't leave you in that monster's hands." Amina's lips quivered, but the fear wouldn't leave. "You have only a few days left before you go back," the nurse whispered. "I need time. Please, Amina, hold on just a little longer." Amina nodded, but the moment the nurse left, the weight of it all crushed her. She buried her face in her hands. "And then," she cried. Not soft tears, not silent sobs. She cried like a woman who had been stripped of everything, of hope, of freedom, of life itself. Her body shook violently as pain tore through her chest. No one was coming to save her. She was running out of time. And for the first time, she truly believed she would die in that man's hands. The door swung open. Amina barely had the strength to look up, but when she saw the nurse enter, she straightened. There was something different this time. Urgency. Determination. The nurse stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have a plan." Amina's heart pounded. The nurse pulled a small packet from her pocket and placed it in Amina's trembling hands. "Sleeping pills. Strong ones. You'll mix them into Chief Duro's food, and the bodyguards too. Once they eat, they'll be unconscious for hours. That's when we escape." Amina's breathing quickened. "Will it work?" The nurse nodded. "It has to." Amina swallowed hard. This was her chance, her only chance. "You leave the hospital tomorrow," the nurse continued. "The moment you get home, do exactly as I said. Once they're out, grab only what you need and meet me outside. Don't make a sound." Amina clutched the packet like a lifeline. This was it. The next evening, the car pulled up to the mansion gates. The guards opened the doors and Chief Duro stepped out first, his presence suffocating as ever. Amina followed, her legs unsteady. Everything was the same. The towering walls, the servants with fearful eyes, the guards with their guns. But tonight, she wasn't just a prisoner. She was a woman with a plan. Dinner was served. Chief Duro took his seat at the head of the table, eating like a king, oblivious to the danger sitting in his plate. The guards ate too, laughing, unaware. Amina sat there, silent, waiting. Minutes passed. Then, one of the bodyguards yawned, his head bobbed slightly, his fingers loosened around his fork. Another guard blinked rapidly, his vision blurring. Duro's chewing slowed, his eyelids grew heavy. Amina's heartbeat pounded in her ears. One by one, the men collapsed, their bodies limp, their breathing deep. It worked. It worked! Amina wasted no time. She ran to her room, grabbing the small bag she had hidden under her bed. She stuffed in a few clothes, shaking with adrenaline. Her hands fumbled with the zipper. Hurry, hurry, hurry! She tiptoed through the hallway, her breath shallow. The guards lay unconscious, their guns beside them. She stepped over them carefully, forcing herself not to look back. Outside, the night was dark. The air was thick with silence. Then, a car pulled up. The nurse. Amina sprinted toward the car, her lungs burning. The door swung open and she jumped inside, slamming it shut. "Go!" she gasped. The tires screeched. The car vanished into the night. The next morning, Chief Duro's eyes snapped open. His head was pounding, his body weak. He sat up sharply and froze. The bed was empty. His eyes darted to the door. His guards were still on the floor. Then he saw it. Amina was gone. A roar of pure fury erupted from his chest. How dare she? The glass on the bedside table shattered as he threw it across the room, his hands fisted, his entire body shaking with rage. "Find her!" he bellowed, his voice echoing through the mansion. "I want her back! Now!" The guards stumbled to their feet, scrambling in panic. Chief Duro's eyes burned with pure hatred. No one ran away from him. And Amina would pay for this. The village air was thick with dust as a convoy of black SUVs sped down the narrow road, sending villagers scrambling out of the way. The screech of brakes sliced through the silence. Doors swung open violently, and armed men spilled out, their faces stone cold, merciless. A moment later, Chief Duro stepped out, dressed in flowing agbada. His gold chain glinted under the scorching sun. His jaw was clenched tight, his eyes burning with pure rage. He scanned the small mud brick houses, his lips curling in disgust. "Where is she?" he roared, his deep voice shaking the very ground. Villagers froze, their eyes wide with fear. From inside the small family house, Amina's parents rushed out, confused, alarmed. "Chief Duro," Amina's father stammered. "What is the meaning of this?" Duro's gaze snapped to him, his nostrils flared. "Where is my wife?" Amina's mother gasped. "Amina? We haven't seen her. Slap!" The force of Duro's palm sent her stumbling back. "You think I'm a fool?" he seethed, stepping closer. "I know she ran to you. I should burn this place down for your stupidity." Amina's father stepped in front of his wife, his hands trembling with anger. "Chief, we swear she is not here." Duro's face darkened. His patience snapped. "Take them." His men pounced. "No, please!" Amina's mother screamed as rough hands dragged her toward the SUV. "You can't do this!" her father roared, struggling. A gun slammed into his stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Duro smirked. "Since you don't want to give me my wife, maybe she'll come find you instead." The doors slammed shut. The SUVs roared to life, and just like that, they were gone. The villagers watched in horror, too terrified to move. Meanwhile, the hospital corridors were dimly lit, filled with the scent of antiseptic. The nurse walked briskly, her mind racing. She had been watching, listening, moving carefully. No one suspected her. But today, she overheard something chilling. Chief Duro took Amina's parents. Her blood ran cold. Her pulse hammered as she rushed toward Amina's room. She threw the door open, breathless. "Amina," she whispered urgently, shaking her awake. Amina stirred, her face pale, eyes puffy from crying. What? The nurse gripped her shoulders, her face grave. Duro took your parents. The words hit like thunder. Amina bolted upright, panic twisting in her chest. No! Oh my God, no! The nurse held her firmly. He's using them to lure you back. Tears spilled down Amina's face. What do we do? He's too powerful. The nurse's jaw tightened. We fight smart. That night, a secret meeting took place. Amina, the nurse, and a few trusted allies sat in a dimly lit room, their voices low but urgent. We need leverage, the nurse said. Something to make Duro back off. A tall man, one of the villagers who hated Duro, leaned forward. His bodyguards are his strength. If we turn one of them against him, he's finished. A heavy silence fell. Then the nurse's eyes lit up. The head bodyguard, she whispered. He has a pregnant wife. Everyone exchanged looks. If we take her, the nurse continued, we make him listen. Amina hesitated. But she's innocent. The nurse's gaze hardened. So were your parents. Amina's fists clenched. Fine, let's do it. 2 nights later, the bodyguard's house was dark and silent. A shadow moved through the trees. Then crash! The front door burst open. A scream tore through the night. Within seconds, a cloth was forced over the woman's mouth, muffling her cries. She kicked and thrashed, but strong hands lifted her effortlessly, rushing her into a waiting car. The door slammed shut. The car vanished into the night. A secret location. The pregnant woman sobbed uncontrollably, tied to a chair. Amina stood in front of her, her stomach tight with guilt. The nurse crouched beside the woman, her voice cold. Listen carefully. No one wants to hurt you, but if your husband doesn't cooperate, we can't promise anything. The woman shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. Tell him, the nurse pressed, if he ever wants to see you and his child again, he'll do exactly as we say. Hours later, the bodyguard stood outside Chief Duro's mansion, his mind in complete chaos. His wife's voice echoed in his head, begging, crying, terrified. Don't you love me? Don't you love our baby? His hands shook violently. If he stayed with Duro, he could lose them forever. If he left, Duro would kill him. His entire body locked up, trapped, no way out. His chest rose and fell rapidly. Then, finally, he made his choice. Kunle walked quickly through the dark alley, his heart pounding. He had to be careful. If Chief Duro ever found out what he was about to do, it would be the end of him. He reached the hidden meeting spot, a small, abandoned warehouse at the edge of the city. Amina, the nurse, and the resistance leaders were already waiting. You came, Amina said, her voice laced with desperation. Kunle nodded, glancing around to make sure they weren't followed. We don't have much time. Chief took your parents. He's using them as bait to lure you back. Amina's fists clenched, her breath shaky. I figured as much, but we need a plan. Can you find out where they're being held? Kunle hesitated for a second, then nodded. I can try, but if Duro finds out I'm helping you, I won't make it out alive. Unknown to them, 2 bodyguards were hidden in the shadows, watching Kunle closely. One of them silently raised his phone, snapped multiple pictures of Kunle standing with Amina and the resistance members, then quickly sent them to their boss. After capturing enough proof, they slipped away and drove back to Chief Duro's mansion. Duro sat in his lavish study, swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand. His phone vibrated. Ping. He picked it up, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the photos. Kunle, Amina, the resistance group. Duro's grip tightened around the glass, his nostrils flaring. So this boy is trying to gang up against me? A slow, wicked smirk curled his lips. Idris, his most loyal bodyguard, stepped forward. Boss, do we handle him? Duro exhaled, calm but deadly. No, not yet. He placed the phone on his desk, tapping his fingers thoughtfully. Bring Kunle to me first thing in the morning. I want to see his face when I show him this. Morning arrived too quickly. Kunle barely had time to process anything before 2 bodyguards grabbed him and dragged him into the grand hall of the mansion. Chief Duro sat on his throne-like chair, his expression unreadable, his fingers tapping the armrest. Kunle was forced to kneel before him. Silence. Duro slowly picked up his phone, turned the screen toward Kunle, and held it up for him to see. Kunle's blood ran cold. The photo of him standing with Amina and the resistance group. His throat went dry. Duro smirked, his voice slow and mocking. "So, you're trying to gang up against me?" Kunel's heartbeat thundered in his chest. "I trusted you, Kunel," Duro continued, his tone dripping with amusement. "You were my best man, and now? You betray me?" Kunel opened his mouth, but no words came. Duro's face suddenly darkened with fury. Slam! His fist crashed onto the table, making everyone flinch. "You think you can escape me?" he roared. "You think I don't see everything?" Kunel stayed silent, calculating. If he spoke wrongly, he was dead. Duro leaned forward, his voice now dangerously low. "You will bring Amina back to me. That is the only way you'll be free." Kunle's jaw tightened. "If you refuse," Duro continued, his eyes gleaming with cruelty, "you will wish you never took your first breath." The threat was suffocating. Kunle's mind spun violently. He had no choice. He either betrayed Amina or faced a fate worse than death. Kunle sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. His decision was made. He was going to betray Amina, not because he wanted to, but because Chief Duro had left him no choice. His phone felt heavy in his hands as he dialed the number. Ring, ring. The nurse picked up. "Kunle, what's going on?" His voice was calm, controlled, hiding the storm in his mind. "I have an update," he said. "Meet me at the usual spot. It's important." The nurse hesitated. "Can't we talk over the phone?" "No," Kunle said quickly. "It's too risky. We need to meet in person." Silence. Then the nurse sighed. "Fine, I'll come, but Amina can't risk leaving the house during the day. I'll come alone." A wicked sense of relief settled in Kunle's chest. The plan was working. "Good. I'll be waiting." The nurse arrived at the meeting spot, her heart racing. The sun was high, making her feel exposed, but she pushed her fear aside. Kunle had never given her a reason to doubt him. Kunle stepped out of his car, his face unreadable. "What's the update?" she asked, moving closer. As she neared the car, something shifted. The air felt wrong. Kunle's eyes flickered. Guilt. The nurse's stomach dropped. Before she could react, "S!" A cloth covered her mouth from behind. She struggled, kicking, thrashing, but strong hands held her tight. Her muffled screams went unheard as darkness took over. When she woke up, her head pounded. She was on her knees, hands tied behind her back. The familiar, lavish, terrifying room told her exactly where she was. Chief Duro's mansion. She swallowed hard as she looked up, coming face to face with Duro himself. The rage in his eyes sent chills down her spine. "So you are the one leading this nonsense," Duro said, his voice dripping with fury. The nurse kept silent. "Bislap!" Her head snapped to the side, pain exploded across her cheek. Duro leaned closer, his breath hot and disgusting. "You really thought you could play against me?" She glared at him, refusing to cower. "I did what was right." Duro's laughter was slow, cruel. "You made a mistake," he whispered. He gestured behind her. Kunle was there, kneeling beside her. Her stomach twisted. "You betrayed us?" she whispered, staring at Kunle in shock. Kunle couldn't look at her. "I had no choice," he muttered. Duro chuckled. "Oh, but you see, nurse, I always have a choice." He turned to his men. "Now that we have her," he smirked, "Amina has no way out." The nurse's heart pounded. This wasn't just about her anymore. Amina was walking straight into a trap. Back to Amina. Unknowingly to anyone, she had tiptoed and followed the nurse, secretly. Hidden behind an old, abandoned stall, she listened to everything. Kunle's betrayal, the chief's threats, the way the nurse begged for her life. Amina's heart pounded in her chest. Fear gripped her, but something inside her shifted. Enough was enough. For the first time ever, she made up her mind. She wouldn't be the weak girl anymore. She wouldn't let fear rule her life. She ran. Her feet pounded against the ground as she raced toward the police station. Every step felt heavier, but she didn't stop. Bursts of memories filled her head, the slaps, the chains, the bruises, the scream. She would end it today. The moment she reached the station, she barged in breathlessly. "Please, I need your help," she gasped, her voice shaking. The officers turned, surprised at the disheveled young woman before them. "It's Chief Duro," she continued. "I have evidence. He's holding innocent people captive. He's done horrible things. You have to stop him before it's too late." One of the senior officers stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "Are you sure?" Amina nodded fiercely, wiping sweat off her forehead. "We have evidence, solid evidence, please. If you don't come now, more people will suffer." The officer exchanged glances with his men. A tense moment passed. Then, "Get the team ready," he commanded. "We move now." 20 minutes later, a convoy of police trucks roared down the road, sirens blaring through the night. Amina sat in the front seat, her hands clenched into fists. "This is it," she whispered to herself. As they reached the massive gates of Chief Duro's mansion, the lead officer barked, "Go!" The officers stormed the compound. Boom! The iron gates slammed open, and dozens of armed policemen flooded the area. The guards barely had time to react. Shots fired into the air. "Everyone down!" an officer shouted. Inside the grand living room, Chief Duro sat calmly in his chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Kunle and the nurse were on their knees, their hands tied behind their backs. Duro lifted his head as the police burst in, his face twisting into a sneer. Then, his eyes locked on Amina. His grip on the glass tightened. "You." His voice was low, dangerous. Amina stepped forward, her chin high, her body trembling, but her fear was gone. The officer raised his gun. "Chief Duro, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent." For the first time, Duro's face changed. He shot up from his chair, rage boiling over. "I'll deal with you," he roared, lunging toward Amina. The police fired a warning shot into the air. Duro froze. His guards were already being handcuffed and dragged away. The officer stepped closer. "One more move, and we'll make sure you never see daylight again." Duro's face contorted with fury. "You think you've won?" he spat. "You think this is over?" Amina met his gaze. "I don't think," she said. "I know." Duro let out a furious yell as the officers forced him down and snapped the cuffs onto his wrists. He thrashed, kicked, cursed, but it was over. He was finished. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Duro's empire crumbled overnight. Half of his wealth was seized by the government, and some were given to Amina. The court ruled in favor of his victims. He was sentenced to many years in prison. Kunle and the nurse were free, and Amina's parents too. As a reward for her bravery, the nurse was granted part of Duro's confiscated properties. But she didn't keep it all. She shared it with the people who had helped. The villagers rejoiced, singing Amina's name. She had done the impossible. She had destroyed the demon. She had won. And Chief Duro? He rotted behind bars, his power fading into nothing. The nightmare was over. Amina was free.